Hello, this is Dr. Adam J. Bock. Welcome to Technology Entrepreneurship. In this short audio presentation, I'm going to help you get started on the course. It's very important to remember, though, that this audio presentation is not a substitute for carefully reviewing the syllabus, the course schedule, and the Canvas site. It's extremely important that you review all of those before you get started in the course. I'm going to walk you through a couple aspects of technology entrepreneurship, introduce myself to you, and talk a little bit about how I may be able to help you with my experience and knowledge as you are learning from this course, give you a little bit of information about how the course will operate, and then wrap up with some comments about goals for you. It's very important to recognize the impact of technology entrepreneurship, both in the United States and around the world. As this quote from Harvard Business Review notes, nearly all the economic growth and job growth in the United States has come from high-growth technology companies over the last few decades. The impact of technology entrepreneurship is dramatically out of proportion to the general role that it plays in terms of company creation and employment. So, broadly speaking, we want to recognize that technology entrepreneurship is in some ways an outlier in terms of its prevalence, but it has outsized impact in terms of how our world is changing. Technology entrepreneurship is a lot of things. It can be very exciting. It can be incredibly capital intensive, and that may be one of the reasons that you are interested in the topic, because you read articles about companies raising hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars. It can be lucrative for the big winners. It is actively shaping society and politics. There's no getting around the role that technology ventures have played, in particular in the last 5 to 10 years, in our broader society and our political sphere. And it's a lot more difficult than it looks. You sometimes may get the impression from reading front page articles in places like the Wall Street Journal that technology entrepreneurship is just a case of people coming up with a cool creative solution and the world pretty much beating a path to their door. And while there are cases like that, those are the exceptions, the outliers. They're the ones that you shouldn't use as reference points because they are consistently more rare than the reality of what technology entrepreneurship looks like. Part of the reason that this is the case is that failure rates are relatively high. We'll talk about this more in the course, but somewhere between half and 3/4 of venture-backed firms don't return investors' capital. It's really important to recognize what this is saying. This is not saying that investors put $1 million in and only get $1 million out. This is suggesting that these are companies where investors put money in and get nothing back at all. Everything is lost in those types of ventures. One of the reasons for this is because when venture-backed companies begin to fail, professional venture capitalists usually try to hurry that process along. They want the companies dead and out in one way, shape, or form so that they can focus their attention elsewhere. The venture capital sphere is very much a fail-fast environment. And it's one reason that we don't encourage entrepreneurs to take venture capital unless they really understand what they're getting themselves into. But the bottom line is that for every great success story that you see on the front page of the Wall Street Journal or the Economist or the New York Times or whatever it happens to be, there are dozens, if not hundreds, or even thousands of ventures that you never hear about, where things didn't go quite as planned, where people made only a little bit of money, or where everyone lost everything in the process. So why am I teaching this course? What might you hope to gain, and how can I help with that? Well, I have a fairly extensive background in this area, and I'm hopeful that the range of expertise that I have proves useful. I do have a PhD in innovation and entrepreneurship. I've written 3 books about entrepreneurship with a specific focus on technology venturing and business models. But I'm also a serial entrepreneur, a financier, and a consultant to startup companies and tech transfer agencies. So I've been a co-founder of a number of different startup companies spun out of universities in the life sciences. A couple of them have exited for pretty good amounts of money. I was directly involved working with angel networks to facilitate about $10 million into early stage tech companies. I consult to tech transfer offices at universities as they are pondering issues associated with launching new companies. And throughout this process, I've probably read closer to 3,000 or even 3,500 business plans at this point in time. The odds are good that if you have an idea for a business, I've seen something like it in the past. I may not know the technology the way you do. I may not be as familiar with the target market, but I've almost certainly seen something like it in the past 20 to 25 years. And I encourage you, if you're actively engaged in a technology venture, if you're pondering the possibility of getting involved in a technology venture, you are more than welcome to reach out to me during or after the course to share a few thoughts and see if I have any suggestions or possibly connections that might be helpful to you. The bottom line is that I've seen technology venturing from almost every angle. I've studied it as a researcher. I've lived in the trenches as one of the entrepreneurs and executives running a number of these companies. And I've worked on the financing side to make difficult decisions about which companies to fund and when to pull funding for companies that were not successful. So I hope that combination of perspectives turns out to be helpful in providing you a real sense of what this phenomena actually is like. This course covers 6 broad topics: entrepreneurship and opportunities, business formation and intellectual property, business model and strategy, a general topic of getting from technology to sales that addresses issues in product development up through the marketing and sales process, and then 2 modules covering the various aspects of finance. The textbook you'll be using is Technology Ventures from Idea to Enterprise. If you're enrolled in the course, you've already purchased this as an e-text. We've moved to e-texts for a number of reasons. They're less expensive by a lot, provide automatic access at the start of the course, and so on. There are some other readings that you'll be assigned and videos in Canvas, so you'll want to keep an eye on those. I have a few points about the book that I want to make here. The good news about the book is that it's written by a combination of academics and practitioners. So the authors include professors who study technology venturing, as well as individuals with direct personal experience in technology venturing and venture capital. This is the book used for Stanford's world-renowned technology venturing course, and it covers a lot of ground. The less good is throughout the book there are efforts to simplify some extremely complex phenomena, processes, and outcomes. And there are some points at which that can feel fuzzy or even forced, where it appears as if the authors are simply trying to find simple ways to explain unbelievably complex issues. There's a number of reasons for that that have to do with the reality of research and entrepreneurship, the limitations of trying to provide an enormous amount of information in a single textbook, trying to provide guidance in circumstances where, in some cases, we don't have perfect answers. There's also an element that I can relate to, which is that so much of technology venturing is fuzzy. Putting together a framework is a wonderful thing, but when the rubber hits the road in an actual venture, there's going to be a lot of very idiosyncratic factors, like the nature of the team, the types of people involved, the psychological factors. And in those cases, hard and fast definitive rules actually tend to fall down. And so there are a number of frameworks in the book that sort of may feel a little fuzzy or may feel like the authors are simply trying to find slightly more vague ways to talk about things. I think it's very useful to understand those in the context of just how unique every technology venture is. And the idea is to provide guidance about the things that we feel pretty good about, even if they're a little bit on the vague side. The textbook does have a couple of really glaring errors in it, which I'm happy to point out to you. I have removed any questions, exam questions and quiz questions related to those particular mistakes, and I did notify the authors of the book when I discovered them. But it's not so it's not. And if you happen to ask me a question about something, I will be very happy to explain the circumstances or what it is. But mostly what I've done is I've chosen to focus away from those particular items that have popped up, presumably in the process of putting together a textbook of this size and complexity. This stuff just kind of slipped through. So don't worry too much about that. Like most textbooks, it's imperfect. But it serves a valuable purpose, and I'm hopeful that it will turn out to be useful to you. The course uses a variety of assessment mechanisms. You should review the schedule, the syllabus, and Canvas to ensure that you're aware of and you understand all of the different assessment types. Some of them are fairly standard in terms of tests. Some of them are a little more subjective. But please do take a look and make sure that you're comfortable with the kinds of assessments that you're expected to complete. This course then gives you an opportunity to be a little bit entrepreneurial and determine how much you want to learn and the activities you want to do. So you have two choices to make. The first choice is that there are a series of submissions to be completed, roughly one in each topic, so about two per module. That are very, very similar, or you can complete an individual project that runs about 2/3 of the length of the term. So take a look in Canvas. There is information provided about these. You'll need to make this choice relatively soon, which one you're going to do. You can't do both. You can't do the submissions and then also complete the project. If you choose to complete the project, you can't go back and redo the submissions at some point. This is really based on whether you're focused on kind of completing the course as a traditional, reading and demonstration of learning kind of course, or whether you want to have direct engagement with the tech entrepreneurial community. And if that's the case, then the project may be a better choice for you. The second choice is whether you prefer to take exams or whether you prefer to complete a semester-long project, again, directly associated with the tech entrepreneurial community. You can complete the semester-long project, in some cases as an individual, but most of them are intended to be completed as a group. This is different than the project that's mentioned in choice number 1, so you'll want to make sure you understand what the options are. Again, all of this information is provided in Canvas, so please take a look when you have time. This you also must choose by early in the second module, and once that decision is made, you can't go back. So again, this gives you a choice of thinking about whether you would like a more traditional course or whether you really want to get engaged in tech entrepreneurship. I will post announcements as we get close to those final decision points. In particular, if you're going to complete a group project, you must self-select your group. I don't assign groups. You're completely and utterly responsible for connecting up with potential classmates to discover whether or not there's enough synergy there to complete one of the semester-long projects. A note about grades, students earn points on assignments and submissions. All students start with 0 points at the beginning of the term. Unlike some other courses you may have taken, at the end of the term, the way that grades are determined is, first of all, students are rank ordered by the points earned, and then grades are assigned based on that rank ordering to align with School of Business and University policy. This is explained in much more detail in the syllabus, but it is important that you understand this, because by participating in the course, you are agreeing to abide by the way that grades are determined in the course. The course does not use a traditional percentage-based curve, something like, 92% is an A. The course operates on assigns grades based on relative performance within the cohort. So you will receive a grade based on where you are at the end of the semester compared to how other students performed. There's no rounding up. And there's no assigning a higher grade simply because you're close to the next grade up. That's just simply not how it works. So please review the syllabus for more information. And there's some additional minor details for MHR 741 students, because this is a combined course that covers primarily the same ground between both the graduate and undergraduate students. Finally, here are my goals for you. The first thing I want to make very, very clear is I'm not interested in turning you into an entrepreneur, much less a technology entrepreneur. If you're interested in entrepreneurship and at the end of the course or at the end of the course you decide you really are, you want to continue with your enthusiasm for entrepreneurship or you want to be an entrepreneur, I'm very happy for you. But I'm equally happy if you are not an entrepreneur now and at the end of the course you're clear that you don't ever want to be an entrepreneur. I think that's a fantastic thing to learn in the context of a classroom rather than discovering much later on that you've given years of your life to trying to be an entrepreneur and you absolutely hate it, much less if you've raised millions of dollars of other people's money. So my goals are really just for you to learn something about technology entrepreneurship. And I can't predict in advance exactly what you'll learn, but I hope it's something that seems mostly relevant to the course. I hope you will explore your own entrepreneurial intents and interests, even if part of that is just discovering that you don't have them or that they're not sufficient to make you want to consider it as a career. And if possible, for you to consider completing the project work that would allow you to potentially explore specific innovations or opportunities or to do some business research. And this is it. This is what I hope we'll accomplish. And to the extent that you do learn some things and you have the opportunity to explore whether this is really of interest to you and you walk away with some new thoughts about entrepreneurship, I will consider it a success. So I hope that this has given you a quick intro to where we're headed during the semester, and I look forward to catching up with you over the coming months.